On February 28, 2010, 1,600 elementary school students filed into Kleinhans Music Hall in Buffalo, New York. They were there to see a free performance by the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. For some of these students, this may have been their first concert and their first introduction to New Orleans jazz.
When I was growing up in New Orleans, the first time I heard music was my father. And he was a musician, and he played it with the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. He also played with a marching band, and those were the earliest educational experiences I can remember. And it wasn't a formal education experience. It was me literally marching alongside my father at his footsteps, absorbing the culture of music. And it wasn't until much later, when I was about 13 years old, that I actually started taking lessons, formal lessons, on the upright bass. And then all of a sudden, I learned what I was doing all those years. That's how traditions are passed along in New Orleans. They're taught from one generation to the next. And then I went on to study music in high school and continued education through college. But for me, the most important time in my life that I can remember were those very early years when I was first developing as a musician. To now pass those traditions on to students younger than me is one of the most rewarding things I can imagine. To have somebody take you under their wing and teach you this tradition, this very, very noble and regal and honorable tradition of New Orleans music, and now to have the opportunity to pass it on to others is it's one of the greatest joys of my life. It's the reason we wake up in the morning, is to do what we do, to play music. It's why we travel all over the world. It's why we come and perform for students wherever we go, because I know how important it was when I was that age, when someone took time to sit down with me and perform. The music is something that brings people together, and it is a healer. And that's what we're so proud to be a part of, is that legacy.
Kleinhans was transformed into a music classroom for 1,600 students. However, in many school systems, music education isn't a priority. It has become an afterthought.
I think that we're in trouble with education. We have been for several years, for more than several years. But it's at a real all-time low. Arts give the children an opportunity to express themselves in ways that no other subject, except maybe English language arts in creative writing. But if a child doesn't have the vocabulary and the writing skills, if they don't happen to have that particular intelligence, the strength of writing ability, then they're not going to be able to express themselves in word, whereas they might have a very high intelligence for visual studies or for music or dance or theater. And in those modes, they can express themselves in ways that they can't in any other subject. Gardner was so clever in his identification of our multiple intelligences. And we have to remember that every single child has an ability for art, one of the arts, if not all of the arts. And those abilities vary to a great extent. We know that every psychological construct is normally distributed in the population. So we know that we have this varied group of children with artistic abilities. If we don't bring them good, solid arts education in the schools, then we're not allowing every child to become all that he is capable of being. And that, after all, is the main goal of education, is to let every child develop commensurate or equal to what his capabilities are. We made our own bed and now we're lying in it. Music educators have not done the job that they needed to do for whatever reason. And so a lot of the people who are now principals and superintendents and making the decisions, they maybe had a bad experience in music or in visual studies, or they maybe didn't learn to value the arts. And so they have no problem cutting them.